Hi, my name's Heather, and I'm an advanced certified grief recovery method specialist. That means I've been trained to facilitate the grief recovery method for both online and in-person one-on-one sessions and group sessions. I was certified and trained by the Grief Recovery Institute, which has been around for over 35 years. I was first introduced to the grief recovery method about a year and a half ago in late 2019 when a friend's mother passed away and my friend experienced the grief recovery method herself. She suggested it would be something that I would find useful and helpful for myself, and she was right. I did. I explored it further when the pandemic hit in 2020, and I decided that I would like to go to the step of training so that I can facilitate workshops. So here we are. Before we get into some of the tools that you can use, let's take a look at a working definition of grief and loss. When most people hear the words grief or loss, they immediately think of things like death and divorce, certainly two major losses that many people experience in their lifetime. But there are actually over 40 different types of losses that you can experience. They can range from things like changing your career, moving to a different city, the end of a friendship or romantic relationship, or they can involve more intangible losses that may be as a result of abuse and neglect, such as a loss of trust, a loss of confidence. You can experience as losses in your health as your health situation changes, or as your life changes and you experience things like going off to school and you experience a change in your lifestyle, or as your kids leave for school and you become empty nesters. Grief is the conflicted feeling caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern or behavior. Grief is a natural and normal reaction to loss of any kind. And while grieving is normal, unfortunately, most of what we've been taught about grieving is not helpful. We live in a society where grief is often intellectualized and the grieving process is not embraced. And sometimes that can mean that people aren't even aware that they are grieving. Some signs of grief can include things like depression, anxiety, lack of energy, being out of the moment, a low-grade anger, having overreactions, isolating yourself, or repeating behaviors, things that we don't want to do but we keep on doing them anyways. Many of us have heard the phrase, "time heals all wounds." This is one of the biggest myths surrounding how to deal with grief. Let's take a closer look. This is Sally. Sally's 6 years old. She's been bullied at school. Her parents are going through a divorce. Her dog died. Her mother is emotionally absent, and her older brother died in a car accident last year. This is Sally as an adult. She's now 30 years old. And where did those losses go that she incurred during her childhood? That's right, she still has them. They're still with her. And it stands to reason, probably, that Sally has incurred more losses. So as you can see, giving it time does not necessarily work for healing losses. It's actually the actions we take within the time that help us heal. Let's look at what we do with all that unresolved grief. Carrying a lot of unresolved grief means that we generally have a lot of pent-up energy. Without the proper tools to release that energy, we usually find other ways to cope with it. These are called STIRBs, short-term energy relieving behaviors. Those are the things that we do when we don't want to feel. They serve to distract us from what we are carrying around. Let's go back to Sally as an example. Let's say Sally comes home from school and tells her mom that the kids have been picking on her. She's crying, and her mom says, "Here, have a cookie, you'll feel better." Sally then learns that food is a way to cope with her pain. What are some other examples of STIRBs? Things like sleep, drugs, alcohol, relationships, diving into the internet and Facebook and social media, anger, daydreaming, video games, television, movies, books, working, shopping, gambling, and I'm sure you can think of a few others yourself. Now, looking at this list, we can see that some of these are not bad. We need to eat, and there's nothing wrong with movies, working out, or serving others. However, when we engage in these behaviors to distract from our feelings, they can become very negative, such as overeating, shopaholic, workaholic, even serving others can become a distraction to working on ourselves. Let's talk about some tools you can use. First, acceptance and awareness. These are key. Before now, you may not have been aware that you were grieving something. Acceptance of this helps you to do something about it. And you may not have been aware of your stirs. Now that you have an awareness, you can do something different. Which leads us to our second thing, having a different relationship with your stirs. When you find yourself engaging in a stir and a distracting behavior, that's an indicator to you that there's something you're avoiding. Stop, ask yourself, what is it that I don't want to deal with? What is it that I don't want to feel? Write it down. It's great to keep a journal so you can write down what you've been avoiding. And our third tool is talk with safe people. Writing things down is great, but talking with someone is key. Your heart works different than your head, and you need to be able to have someone listen to you without judging and knowing that you have been heard. Talk to safe people to help you process what you're feeling. And in addition, learn to be a safe person for someone to talk to. Don't try to fix someone. Don't judge. Instead, just be there to let them know that you are listening. Thanks for listening to this introduction on grief and loss with some practical tips to help you deal with grief in a healthy way. If you'd like to go deeper into these tools and learn more about the grief recovery method, please get in touch and we can set up a series of one-on-one sessions.